Good morning, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel Medical Classes by Dr. Srinidhi Kumar Acharya. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also please give valuable comments. You can also visit the playlist. In the playlist, I have provided almost all the topics in a very systematic order. You can also make use of it. So, my dear friends, as we know, we are discussing about the differential sexual development, DSD. And in that part, the basics part we have already covered, and today we will going to cover one of the very important part, that is congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Okay, so far we have seen the external genital organ problem, internal genital organ problems, anti-Mullerian ducts, hormone, Mullerian duct formation, and so many things, ambiguous genitalia we have seen. But so far many times we have referred the role of adrenal gland, like total insensitivity syndrome, receptor insensitivity syndrome, etc. But we have not yet discussed what is actually the role of congenital, what is actually the role of adrenal gland. So today we will go to discuss about congenital adrenal hyperplasia, which actually clears almost all our doubts regarding formation of the androgens and its role in the development of the male and female genital organs. So let us start with congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Now, first we'll have a outlook on adrenal gland. As we know, the normal physiology of the adrenal gland, we know that adrenal gland basically contains two important parts. One is medulla and another one is cortex. Cortex is the outermost part and medulla is the innermost part. Now we know that cortex produces two important hormones, adrenaline and noradrenaline, which are vasopressive agents. And medulla is divided into three parts. We know that the three parts of the medulla are zona glomerulus, zona fasciculatus, and zona reticulatus or reticulata. Now, from the zona glomerulus, there is production of the aldosterone. From the fasciculates, there is a production of the cortisol, and from the reticulata, there is production of the androgens. Now, for our importance, it is the androgens which is produced from the zona reticulata. That is very, very important, the innermost layer. Now, actually, zona glomerulus, fasciculus, and as well as reticulata, they produce the mineralocorticoids or aldosterone, cortisol, and androgens. The precursor for all these three enzymes is nothing but cholesterol. Okay, we should know that cholesterol should enter inside the adrenal gland, and in the zona glomerulus, same cholesterol will be get converted into aldosterone or mineralocorticoids. Similarly, in the zona fasciculata, cholesterol enter inside and get converted into glucocorticoids or cortisol. Similarly, in the zona reticulata, the cholesterol enter inside and it will produce the androgens. This is the basic information. So what I mean to say is cholesterol is a basic precursor here. Now, what do you mean by congenital adrenal hyperplasia? The word hyperplasia always suggests that more increased mass or increased number, whatever you say, hyperplasia, increased mass of the cell. Now, little contrary to that, congenital adrenal hyperplasia is a condition in which there is failure to produce the adrenal hormones. Okay? Just contrary to the conventional definition, hyperplasia means there is no overproduction of the hormones. Rather than congenital adrenal hyperplasia is a condition in which there is a failure to produce the adrenal hormones, although adrenals are undergoing hypertrophy. Adrenal gland is undergoing hypertrophy. But in spite of that, the adrenal gland is not able to produce the required amount of the hormones, either of the three, mineralocorticoids, cortisol, or androgens. Now, as we know that stimulation of the adrenal gland to produce all these hormones and all, like mineralocorticoids, cortisol, and androgen, actually the basic central stimulation is coming from the pituitary gland through the adrenal cortico-stimulating hormone, isn't it? Adrenal cortico-stimulating hormone. So that is the basic information, just like thyroid stimulating hormone for the thyroid gland. Similarly, FSH for the ovary, etc. And similarly for the adrenal gland, it is the adrenal corticoid stimulating hormone. But if there is some defect in this particular hormone, some genetic defect, where the adrenocorticoid stimulating hormone is coming and it is trying to stimulate the adrenal gland. But adrenal gland is not able to show any response. Adrenal gland is not showing any response to the ACTH. So ACTH is keep on stimulating, but in spite of that, the adrenal gland is not showing any response. Okay, any response for that. And what happens? Because of this, the adrenal gland is not able to produce the required three important hormones, especially from the medulla. Meantime, when this happens, there is reduced production of the three hormones: mineralocorticoids, cortisol, and as well as androgens. There will be reduced production of the aldosterone or mineralocorticoid and cortisol, which leads to other complications. When mineralocorticoid is not formed properly, the sodium excretion is not proper, so there will be salt retention. Okay. So because of salt retention, what happens? There will be hypertension. Okay, and there is also hypoglycemia. And also there are some immune problems and other issues. So many issues start because electrolyte imbalance is there. Basically, mineralocorticoids is not there. Therefore, it fails to maintain the electrolyte imbalance, and salt retention is more, and related complications starts one by one. This is one problem. Okay, and similarly, when the cortisol is not produced properly, it leads to so many other issues. Cortisol, when it's not produced properly, then there will be hypoglycemia and some other immune problems, etc. will going to start. But there is one thing which is happening. The first two hormones are not properly produced because of a problem related to ACTH. ACTH, not problem related to ACTH, because of the adrenal gland is not showing any response to the ACTH, the first two hormone production will totally get disturbed and so many complications start. But this is not the case with the androgens. The third one, it differs. But in the meantime, there will be excess production of the androgens. Adrenal is not giving response to the ACTH. First two hormones are get disturbed. There is a hypofunctioning or hypoproduction, but as far as androgen, the last one which is produced from the reticulata, so that is concerned. But in the meantime, there will be excess production of the androgens leading to early virilization, especially in female. So because of this problem, what happens? Androgens are not like that, they are less produced. There is no hypoproduction of the androgens, but rather than there will be hyperproduction of the androgens. Other two hormones are not formed, but androgens are formed in excess. And this leads to early virilization, early development of the sexual characters, especially in case of the females. Okay, this is point number one. Now, so more production of the androgens with the less production of the mineralocorticoid and the cortisol, this leads to so many problems. Natural, obvious, isn't it? No. Manifestation will vary depending upon the degree of the enzyme deficiency. Okay, and usually it is inherited as autosomal recessive pattern. This ACTH is produced, but adrenal gland is not responding for that. As a result, the problem start. Usually, this will be an inherited problem. Okay, especially autosomal recessive pattern of a genetic single gene disorder. Now, as we know, aldosterone is very important for the sodium and water retention and the potassium excretion. Cortisol is very important as a stress hormone, stress response hormone, and also it is very important for glucose maintenance. Therefore, there will be hypoglycemia, and cortisol is also important for the growth. While what is the importance of androgen? Androgen is very important for the production of the external genitalia development. Okay, androgen is very important for the external genitalia development. Estradiol for the female development. Now, one of the form of this androgen that we will discuss now, one of the form of this androgen, that is estradiol, that is not only important for the female genital organ development, but it is also important for the bone growth, both in male and female. Okay, now source of the adrenal hormone biosynthesis is cholesterol. In the beginning itself I told, all these hormones, they enter inside, isn't it? and all these hormones, how they are produced. Once the cholesterol enter inside, then the changes taking place. Now, the source of the adrenal hormone, all the three, biosynthesis, basic material which is required is cholesterol. This cholesterol can be itself produced by the adrenal gland as per its requirement, or it can be even taken from the circulation. But cholesterol is very important. Now, high density lipoproteins are the main source in the cholesterol also, especially high density lipoproteins are required. Now, what happens? This cholesterol in the form of high density lipoproteins, so they enter inside the adrenals via the receptors called as scavenger receptor B. Okay, that is cholesterol is entering, that is lipoids, lipoproteins, they are entering inside through the scavenger receptor B. The changes occur in the mitochondria. Now inside the adrenal gland cells, okay, they enter inside the mitochondria of the cells, and in the cells there will be mitochondria and also there is endoplasmic reticulum. These lipoproteins, they enter inside the mitochondria, and for their further development or further change proceedings, they need a protein which is called as star protein. They need a protein which is called as star protein. Okay, so therefore this star protein is called as rate limiting step. That means if the star protein is there, the things are going on, there is the production of the hormones. If the star protein is not there, there will be a restriction. So this is a rate limiting step, and if there is any problem in the star protein, none of the adrenal hormones can be produced. Suppose if the more adrenal hormones are produced, then one of the way of controlling it is blocking the star proteins. Okay, so if star protein is not there, none of the hormones are produced. So once it enter inside the mitochondria, star protein, once it enter inside the mitochondria, it goes to cholesterol side chain cleavage system. This star protein now inside the mitochondria, the protein is already there, cholesterol is already there in the form of a lipoprotein. Now this star protein will enter inside, and it will now enter the pathway of side chain cleavage system. That means cleavaging the cholesterol. Okay, for that star protein is required. Now this is happening. Once this cleavage takes place, okay, so these are the series of the substances which are formed. Like cholesterol is there. From the cholesterol there is production of the pregnenolone. From the pregnenolone there is production of the progesterone. From the progesterone there is production of the deoxycorticosterone. From that there is production of corticosterone. From the corticosterone there is production of the aldosterone. This is how the aldosterone is formed. For the formation of the aldosterone, this much of steps are there, and each step will be guided by different enzymes. If these enzymes are absent, then also these steps will not take place. Okay, then this we will see now. So cholesterol now is converted into as I told, it is converted into pregnenolone, that is converted into progesterone, then into the deoxycortisone, and from the cortisone there is production of the aldosterone. Okay, now what happens? The pregnenolone which is formed first, okay, pregnenolone which is there. So if there is 17 alpha hydroxylase enzyme, then it is converted into 17 OH pregnenolone, which is further converted into DHEAS or dihydroepiandrosterone. Okay, पहले तो प्रेग्नेस्टेरोन बन गया. अब प्रेग्नेस्टेरोन हमने जो बताया कि pregnenolone, okay, so that leads to the formation of the progesterone, then corticosterone, etc. This is one axis. Now another is, when there is pregnesterone is there, if there is a enzyme called as 17 hydroxypregnenolone, so then that will be converted into dihydroepiandrosterone. Okay. Similarly, the progesterone in the presence of 17 alpha hydroxylase enzyme is converted into 17 OH pregnenolone, which is also called as androstenedione, androstenedione, which is later converted into testosterone. What I mean to say is, यहाँ पे जो है प्रोजेस्टेरॉन बन गया, सॉरी pregnenolone बन गया. So pregnenolone is there. If 17-OH hydroxypregnenolone, it is converted into 17-hydroxypregnenolone in the presence of 17-alpha hydroxylase enzyme. Later it is converted into this 17-alpha and 20-alpha converted into dihydro DHEA. Once the DHEA is formed, then it is further converted into androstenedione, and this androstenedione is further converted into testosterone, and this testosterone is now converted into estradiol, or from the androstenedione directly estrone is formed, or from the estrone again the estradiol is formed. So this is how testosterone and estradiol is formed from the pregnenolone and progesterone. Okay, first two materials which are coming in this cycle, pregnenolone and progesterone. So both are there, acted upon by enzyme called as 17-alpha, and that will convert into the next phase, and ultimately at the end there is formation of the testosterone and estradiol. So what I mean to say is, for the formation of this testosterone and estradiol, ultimately pregnenolone is important, progesterone is important, this 17-alpha hydroxylase enzyme is important, and other enzymes which are required in the different steps, they are also very important. Okay, so this is the message. Now this is what it was. So now 17-OH pregnenolone can be converted into deoxycortisol by the action of the 21-hydroxylase. Deoxycortisol is converted into cortisol by the action of 11B hydroxylase, and later cortisol is converted into cortisone. So this is same. This one, when you take this one, progesterone, so that forms a substance called 17-hydroxyprogesterone. 21-hydroxylase enzyme convert this hydroxylase enzyme into deoxycortisol. From the deoxycortisol, another step, it forms the cortisol. Okay, so now this is how from the adrenal cortex, adrenal medulla, all the three enzymes are formed, three hormones are formed. See, at the end there is formation of the aldosterone, at the end there is formation of the cortisol, and at the end there is formation of the estradiol or testosterone, the androgens. Okay, but if you see, the first steps are very important. This pregnenolone and progesterone, if it is not there, then none of the steps are possible, isn't it? If the pregnenolone and the progesterone is not there, aldosterone cannot be formed. If these two are not there, cortisol cannot be formed. If these two are not there, again the testosterone and estradiol is not formed. Okay, so this is the thing. But I told you that these two hormones are not formed, but androgens will be increased in excess in case of adrenal hyperplasia, congenital adrenal hyperplasia, isn't it? In the beginning I told, but that part I am not explaining now. Now actually for the formation of all the three, this is the steps required. Okay, now how in the absence of these two, if these two aldosterone and cortisol, if it is not formed, how only testosterone is formed in excess, so that part I will explain in the later class. Okay, this is only the basics. In the next class again we will see the same thing, and we will going to discuss 21-alpha hydroxylase deficiency, that is this particular enzyme 21-hydroxy alpha deficiency. Progesterone converted into deoxycorticosterone and 17-hydroxyprogesterone converted into deoxycortisol. This is in the presence of 21, that is 21-alpha hydroxylase enzyme, and its deficiency, if it is there, what happens? Its absence leads to what consequences? So that we will discuss in the next class. I am going very little slow because this is a very complex subject to understand. So step by step we are going. Thank you very much. In the next class again we will meet another important topic related to this 17-alpha deficiency. Thank you very much.